a lot of bandwidth because I have good internet, but it just I don't know. It's like gives me a thing. It's like your connection's unstable. I'm like, no, it's not. It can't be. Anyway.
Dang.
All right. Well, welcome, Hillary.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited about
No-
this.
yeah, thanks for being here. I got
Yeah.
to be on your podcast. That was a lot of fun. And then, I thought we'd run it back on mine. But and so you're the owner of TRC Agency, but you got a lot of other things going on. And that's how we met. We met through virtual assisting and things like that. But what? So tell us about TRC. Tell us about what you got going on.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you. And also, by the way, too, it was so fun having you on my show on the podcast. I love anyone that I can talk to where we can nerd out about sales methodology. I absolutely love it.
Yeah,
So that was a good time.
yeah,
But yeah, yeah. So I own TRC Agency, digital marketing and business automation agency here in Salt Lake City, Utah. And
yes,
I started it officially just about 2 years ago. So, right when the pandemic hit, I was like, oh, what better thing to do than start a business?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, it ended up being a good time though for marketing. Really good time, right? A lot of businesses were um, pivoting and finding new ways to get the word out. So it went really
Yeah.
well. The agency took off during the pandemic. It was great. But alongside that, I also I have a podcast called The Digital Mastermind um, that
That's right.
focuses on entrepreneurial mindset type topics.
Mm-hmm.
Bring in experts that help with entrepreneurial type issues, right? What types of things you run into as a business owner and starting up a new business that you might not think of, right? Like one of those I know for me, I talk about this all the time because I hate it, but one of those for me is bookkeeping, right? I just
Oh
it's
yeah,
one of the
yeah,
hardest
right.
parts for me for real. But just those things that you don't really ever think about as
Yeah.
an entrepreneur. So talking about those in the podcast, and then also I am a program owner. So I created an online course for entrepreneurs who want to create their own marketing agency, and I do that through the company called Entre Institute. So, or
Oh, right on.
entreinstitute.com. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've had close to 200,000 students go through the Institute. So it is incredible and kind of
That's
same.
bananas.
I know it's insane. I
Yeah.
feel super blessed to be a part of it. It's one of the most incredible communities of individuals that, just want to elevate themselves on every single level. So that's
Yeah.
what I spend my time doing.
Well, that's great though. And Entre Institute. How did you
Right.
get involved with Contra Institute?
Ooh, yeah, that's a fun story. So, it actually goes back to my background with digital marketing, and kind of how I got started with TRC Agency and all of it. So it ties in.
It
Good
all kind
question.
of goes together. Okay, cool. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
let's do it.
But so about 5 or 6 years ago, I've always been, last 10 years of my career have been in digital marketing, or sales, right? B2B, B2C sales, entrepreneurial, working with entrepreneurs, working in the enterprise space, all of those fun pieces, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But about 5 or 6 years ago, I was with a startup company here in Lehigh that sold a digital marketing tool to agency owners. And I was on the partner team for that company. And so what that meant is we
Great.
got to travel around and meet lots of marketing agency owners and consult with them, help them, implement this tool in their business to scale their agencies. And honestly, it's where my love for marketing really, ignited. Um, I've You've heard the story before that and everything of how I got into digital marketing, kind of baptism by fire. But it's really where I learned to love the business owner and the entrepreneurial spirit, right? In that experience of working with the startup and traveling around and meeting with hundreds and hundreds of agency owners, I met a gentleman named Jeff Lerner who owned an agency called Zurley at the time. And he was a client of ours and, utilized the tool that we had at that time to scale his agency. And he and I kept in touch, right? We kept in touch. We had a really great relationship traveling around, and he actually spoke on behalf of the startup company and the success he was able to gain from the tool that, that we sold. So he spoke on behalf of our company at a lot of the events that we went to. And anyways, yeah, we just kept in touch, right? Then the pandemic happened and the startup company dissolved, but he and I stayed in contact over social media, things like that.
Right.
He saw that I started an agency, and at the same time, I saw that he was starting this company called Entre Institute. And Entre Institute, School for Entrepreneurs. He and I, were talking back and forth, and it kind of just, happened that he was like, "Hey, you're running an agency. I've seen what you do. It's really great. Please, would you be willing to come in and put together a program?" And I was like so excited, so happy. I always tell the story that, kind of to go on a tangent a little bit. I always tell the story that, in high school, I was in a I don't know, like the job search thing, or like, what do they do? Like the job fair?
Like a career fair or something?
Yeah. But I remember a teacher asking me, like, what are you interested in? What do you like to do? And I remember saying, like, I'm really interested in business hierarchy. Like, I want to teach people how to create, the hierarchy in a successful business. And I remember her telling me at the time, like, well, there's not really a job that does that, so you have to pick something else. I was like, okay. But like, bringing it back full circle, though, I feel so privileged and so just honored every single day that I literally get to spend my time coaching thousands of entrepreneurs how to build their own version of success in Entre Institute, and also, helping businesses to really scale through automation and digital marketing through TRC Agency.
Yeah. What's interesting about that, though, is I was talking to somebody about that. One of the things that I love talking about on this podcast and just in general is, and I think we talked about this maybe on the podcast I did with you, and that is this idea of like education reform and like what you do with like your career. Because what's really cool and what I like to talk about is what you just brought up, right? So first of all, I don't think that and by the way, this isn't like a bag on teachers, but I just think it's tough for teachers who, I mean, like, and it's not only teachers, but you don't know what you don't know, in a sense.
Right.
So like, and what I talk to, budding entrepreneurs, or like, my brother, who was in high school trying to figure out what he's going to do. I'm like, look, the job that you get or the job that you want might not even exist for 5 years, right? Or something like this, right? Like your situation where it's kind of like you kind of got to like invent it, or but I learned a funny like adage in the car business, and that is that there's an ass for every seat. And so you know what I mean? Like if somebody's willing to buy it, you can sell it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that goes with careers, right? Like if you think business automation and business hierarchy and like teaching people the back end of a business, like I don't think enough people understand what that means to appreciate it. So like, and again, not like bagging on teachers, but like a teacher wouldn't really understand her. She's like, teachers are like, oh, business is just, is the state. They get my check. That's what a business is, or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, seriously. And I can relate on that side too. I think, man, I have my own opinions when it comes to public education, and the same thing, like not bagging on teachers by any means. In fact,
I think it's just a systemic issue. Like it's just a system issue.
Exactly. Yeah. In fact, when I actually went to Weber State University for a whopping 2 weeks, and I'll tell you that story in a sec. But I went to Weber State University with the intention of going into elementary education to be a teacher.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I do have, a passion for teaching others. I love it so much. In fact,
Yeah.
That's, one of my core values is being able to make an impact, right? That's really important to me. But yeah, anyways, I just truly believe that, in the public education system that we have, it's very cookie cutter, right?
Yeah.
It's very cut and dry. And I don't think that that's to blame teachers. I think that's to blame our higher level of society, honestly. And
Right.
that's a whole other conversation. But
Sure.
yeah, that's one of the biggest reasons that, after sitting a couple weeks in college, university, I was like, man, this is not for me. This is not for me. I'm a hands-on learner. I have to get in there. I have to figure out things for myself, both on the, failure side and the success side. So,
right.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. And I'm, I can get super passionate about this side of it, but I really do believe that, the system right now of public education is more of a hindrance for a lot of our young minds than it is empowering.
Well,
right?
I think it's just really like, I think that there was a time and a place for it. I think that I think teachers are obviously invaluable, but it's just tough, because one of the things that I would teach, so I teach people how to sell, that. I taught sales for a long time, right? And one of the things that I would get like a new salesperson, right? And one of the lessons that I learned from a mentor early on is like, don't take advice from somebody you wouldn't trade paychecks with.
Ooh.
And that's like, that was because people would you would see these hustler salespeople, and like ultra successful salespeople are busy, right? So they don't have a lot of time to like mentor. I mean, they do, and that's what part of being an ultra successful salesperson is like helping people. But they don't get a lot of time, and so the people who will give you a lot of time on the sales floor are the people who aren't selling. And I'm like, look, listen, you've never sold anything before, so if you want to learn how to sell get your first deal, then this would be a perfect person to talk to, right? Because they've gotten a deal, right? But if you want to learn how to sell 20 deals, 50 deals, 100 deals, like they've never done that, right? And so like that was my thing, is like, don't take advice from somebody you wouldn't trade paychecks with.
I love that.
Because like it's not going to do anything. Like it's just not going to be there.
And I think same thing too on the flip side of that.
Yeah.
No one will criticize you unless they are doing less than you.
Right. Yeah.
You'll never be criticized by someone doing more than you, right? Because they can respect where you're coming from, right?
That's so true.
Yeah. So I love that perspective of it too, of like, only take the advice from those that have been there or doing the things that you are looking up towards. Right?
Yeah. And so that would be my thing with teachers. Like, I mean, there's a lot of like great teachers out there who do a lot of great things. And like, that's one of the cool things about some of the universities. When you get up in the higher courses, like you have like MBA professors who are also like, they're adjunct professors, but they're also like running businesses and things like that. And like, okay, that's cool. I'll do that. Right. So I like some of that, but at the end of the day, I think also that what's great, your situation, like I didn't really have that kind of story. I just like everybody in our hometown, like I grew up in a pretty poor neighborhood. I didn't even know what an entrepreneur was. Like the first time I heard that word, I was like, oh, those are the guys that like, have you seen The Social Network? Like, I'm an entrepreneur. Oh, so that means you don't have a job? He's like, well, I wouldn't really say that. So it's like, oh, it must be that. You know what I mean? And so it's just crazy. Totally. It's just a wild story.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Well, and that's kind of funny too, because it's funny that you bring that up, because I remember, so I was lucky in the sense that, and I promise I'm tying this back around, but I was lucky in the sense that, when I was 20 years old, right out of my college stint, I decided like, there's potential for me to make a good living out there in sales or in doing different things, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean that I have to be sitting behind a desk before to learn how to do it, right? So I feel like I was lucky in the sense that right off the bat, I jumped into the corporate world. I started out with a company that they hired me on as more on an operational position, but that same month came in and said, hey, we just acquired these two e-commerce platforms and would like you to take a stab at running those because we don't know how to do it. It's B2B and we only run B2C, right? And I was like, okay. It's kind of that same concept of like, I was forced, like my ships were burned. I had no other choice but to learn how to do this and be good at it and be successful at it. Otherwise, I would have to go back to college, right? And so just jumping in and, talking to other experts, talking to other people that had done it and that had been there and that had, learned what worked and what didn't work. I spent months just figuring out what would make those e-commerce platforms successful. And I know you've heard the story, but that year I scaled them both to $14 million. It was super successful, super lucrative. And that really, I think that ignited a lot of things for me. And coming back to what you're talking about with not really knowing what an entrepreneur was, right? At the beginning, I remember, at that time, I mean, that was over 10 years ago now. At that time, I had no idea. I remember a guy that I worked with at the time was like, oh yeah, I just sold a business. I was like, that's cool. What are you doing here?
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, it must not be that cool to be an entrepreneur if you're here.
Yeah. Well, which is weird. Yes. But yes, you're right.
Totally. But yeah, I don't know. It's crazy because I think that, there's a lot of different stages of the journey. There's a lot of different things that we go through, imposter syndrome and figuring out by mistakes, figuring out what works and what doesn't. And, just being scrappy and being resourceful and leveraging our resources, right? There's so much that goes into being successful, whether that's in a 9-to-5 or creating your own 9-to-5, I guess,
Yeah, exactly. Well, and what was that? I mean, it's always a funny meme. It's like a cliche that floats around the hustle culture, like the entrepreneur world, which is like, I left my 9-to-5 so that I could work 24/7 or something like that. Because it's like, and that's the kind of thing. I feel like every good thing always gets there. If you have a good thing, somebody always comes in and tries to like mess it up.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like that happened with like being an entrepreneur, mainly because you had a lot of people like, I'm an entrepreneur because of freedom. And I'm like, I get it. I get what you're saying, but you're not pitching it right, man. Because it's like, it's not a lot of freedom at the beginning. You have to work and it's long hours and it's like, it's just hard sometimes. You know what I mean? And so it's funny, like when I hear some of these people talk about, or like they've only been doing it for like 6 months or something like that. I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know, dude, if you're telling the truth or not. That's funny. But tell us the story of Weber State. I don't know if you got to that part.
Oh, well, that was basically so it's funny because in high school, I don't know, like it's funny in the moment of things, you don't realize when things are like a little bit peculiar or maybe unique. You just think, oh, this is just normal, right? Until you look back at it retroactively. And that's, I think, the case for a lot of situations. But in high school, my mom actually was a really great influence in getting me into leadership opportunities that would look really good on college applications, right? So I, spent a lot of time in high school. I was actually like the mayor of the youth city council. And I was like, on these different things that look really good for college applications. But because of that, which I'm super grateful for, it gave me a lot of experience. But because of that, Weber State had offered me a full ride scholarship to be on their Academy of Emerging Leaders, which was a board of individuals that they saw a lot of value in, and I felt super honored to be have that. But I seriously, I remember like, oh my gosh, I remember in my mind, sitting in a class, like I can picture, I could like draw this image for you, sitting in a class and just looking up at the professor and thinking like, man, what am I doing with my time right now? This is not a good use of my time. Like I'm sitting here taking notes about, it was like an orientation class, right? Like
Yeah,
taking
yeah,
notes
yeah.
about like how the school worked and like da 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 da, which okay, cool, but like how is this going to help me have a good career? Like how is this going to help me be successful? How is this going to help me, like grow into the version of myself
Right,
that I want to become?
right.
Yeah. So honestly, that was basically it. That was the story. That was basically it. I was like, no, I'm not,
You're
I'm
like,
not
I shouldn't be here.
comfortable. Yeah. And I think that, a large part of my life has been examples of learning by experience, right?
Yeah, well, I mean
Yeah,
that,
I
yeah,
think that's what I
that's
needed.
what it is. Yeah,
Yeah, totally.
that's the school of hard knocks, right? Like you
Exactly.
learn stuff, you see it, and you do it. Well, that's why, I mean, no, I'm gonna get in trouble for saying this one day, but the professional sales program at Weber State, I think I don't know why that exists. It's bananas. I
Really?
don't know. Let me let me just start here. I don't. I've never taken a class. I've met a few people who've come out of the program. They're great. Like I'm not, you know what I mean? But it's just like
Yeah.
how you do 4 years of school to get a
Mhm.
sales degree. Follow me here. You get a
Right.
4 year degree to do sales, and by the end of 4 years, you have a piece of paper that says you haven't sold anything.
Right.
That's bananas to me. Like, I don't know if they, and I might be wrong. There might be like an internship or there might be like something, but like you've never asked somebody except for like Facebook or KSL, like
Yeah.
pay me $50,000 for this piece of equipment or pay me $12,000 a year or
Mhm.
something, right? Like, I don't know. And maybe I'm wrong. And I hope somebody listens to this and goes like, hey, Dalton, you're an idiot. Like, I actually did sell a lot during this program, but when I heard that, I was like, they're like, "Do you wanna be a professional sales degree?" I was like, "No way, man. I you'll learn more about sales being a car salesman."
Yeah. Oh my gosh, seriously.
Or
Yeah,
just
totally.
or I don't
It's that baptism by fire, right?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. Well, so we have a similar background in the sense of like ourselves, right? I mean, I
yeah, yeah,
spent a
yeah,
lot
yeah,
of
we do.
time with the companies I was with, either training sales teams, running sales or running different programs,
Right.
or just being out there and not like I don't know, not like to like toot my own horn or anything because I don't know, that
Sure,
sounds weird.
sure.
But I mean, I was always a very
Yeah.
high top producer. And I think that's more
Uh-huh.
coming from the experience with people, right? Just from
Well, yeah. Well,
understanding
yeah.
the experience with people. I did
Yeah.
spend a lot of time. So I do have um, NLP. I studied psychology
Oh, yeah.
and, you
Yeah, yeah,
know,
yeah, of course.
why people do the things that they do, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so I think that side of things has more effect on your ability to be successful in this space or in that industry than the actual like book and
Yeah,
paper.
then like a piece of paper. Yeah, oh, for sure. By the way, yeah, and by the way, like obviously I'm not a college basher because like
Sure.
there's my degree right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. I was
Um,
gonna say you have
you
your
know,
MBA, don't you?
yeah, well, I know. So I'm in the MBA program right now.
That's right.
But those were like, but I think and I kind of guess I fall back on Gary V's and just like a rational sense of like just do whatever makes you happy. But I'll tell you
Yeah.
what though, I had a similar experience stepping in a classroom. I was like,
Mm.
I shouldn't be in a classroom right now, dude. That's what I thought. I went online. I just did everything online, and they were like, "You're not going to make it." Online's the
Yeah.
hard. Like I did an accounting degree online, so like
Mhm.
one of the hardest business degrees with no teachers. But it was great. It was like you go to YouTube, go to Udemy, like look it up,
Yeah.
figure it out. Like, I mean, that was cool because that's kind of what you have to do as a business owner. Is like
Mhm.
somebody gives you a project, and I mean, like I do believe in honesty with people. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, but I also believe in like I don't know how to do this yet, but I know that if you give it to me, I can figure it out. That
Sure.
kind of thing, right? You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure
That
you've
makes
had
sense.
experiences like that where you're like, I've never actually done this before, but I've done things like it. But more
Yeah.
importantly, like I have a stellar team, I have a kick-ass team, and I know that we can
Mhm.
figure it out. You know,
Absolutely. Oh yeah,
what's wrong with that?
absolutely. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And so within Entre Institute, I get the opportunity to talk with a group of our entrepreneurs every single week. And
Yeah.
that's one of the things that we come back to almost on a regular basis is one
Yeah.
of the most significant attributes of a successful entrepreneur is your ability to be resourceful, hands down.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
I think honestly, you know, and I'm with you on that. I mean, you know, I would never go into a situation saying like, oh yeah, we know how to do this and really not knowing how. But that being said, you know, I think that one of the attributes that
Yeah.
set the successful apart from those who are complacent or who are not
Yeah.
successful is
Sure.
literally their ability to be resourceful, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And disciplined and all the things that come with that. But
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
it
Yeah.
plays a big
Well, and
part.
that's, yeah. I mean, same thing. Like I do a little virtual assistant course.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the last videos is like, look, at the end of the day, there's some stuff that I've missed that you've missed,
Yeah.
skills that you can offer people that haven't been invented yet, that you haven't thought of. But as soon as you hear it, a light's going to go off, and you're going to be like, I've never done that before, but I know I can figure it out. And I'm
Yep.
like, and that's the approach you need to take. So somebody, right, and I'm always honest with people. I always tell people like, look, I haven't done this before, but I'll tell you what, I'll figure out how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I can come to some sort of agreement to make both parties feel good. But absolutely, yeah, being resourceful, like taking opportunities. What I think, oh, I had a good friend of mine. He's also in the marketing world, and every day I feel like I should have gone to marketing. I should have gotten a degree in marketing or something, because like I'm like, oh my gosh. But you know, he was taught, his name is Dallin, and he was talking about like pursuing opportunities over like passion or purpose or something like that. He's like, dude, take the opportunity. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
bro, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's a good opportunity. Because it sounds like that's a lot of people's path. Like your path sounds a lot like that, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, this is a really good opportunity. Why not jump on it? And if it doesn't
Yeah.
work, it doesn't work. Well, I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think
How-
yeah, that's an interesting concept too, because I think that I don't know, with choosing a career, with choosing a business to start, with choosing anything like that, they always say, you know,
yeah.
well, do what you're passionate about, or when you're doing something you love, you'll never work a day in your life, right? Well, that's cool, unless it's
Yeah. I
like,
don't know about that.
you know,
I don't know
right.
about that. Yeah.
How do you decide? How do you decide what it is that you're actually passionate about, or how do you decide
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I
And
think
my
you're right.
passions
I think
change,
that,
man.
yeah, seriously, I think that the opportunities that present themselves, you know, we have opportunities every single day, right? There, we're
Mhm.
always one choice away from a completely different life, and
Yeah.
you know, I
Uh,
think that we always have the opportunity to step into something that could be monumental for us, right? But it kind of, you know, bringing it back to what you're talking about here, I I was thinking about, you know, with being resourceful, being like, well, you know what, I could figure this out. Within my agency, TRC Agency, a lot of
yeah.
our clients that we work with, we do business automation. And that's, you know, that's something that most people, when we say that, they're like, well, what's that? You know, what is business automation?
Right.
And it's, you know, it's, I guess, kind of in layman's terms, it's essentially taking anything that doesn't take human connection to do in your business and
Yeah.
automate it, right? Um,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
yeah. But that being said, there are, I mean, in the automation world, you're looking at APIs, you're looking at a lot of different connections. I mean, Zapier is a common word that's thrown around like zaps and stuff,
Yeah.
right? But there's lots of little nuances and things that are new, that change, different
Right.
codes, you know, different things that change on a regular basis. So to say
Yeah.
that you know everything there is to know about business automation is absurd, right? So that's the first thing that came to mind for me when you're
Yeah.
talking about that is like, yeah, absolutely. You know, well, I have 100% confidence in my ability and my team's ability to automate these processes for you.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that we've necessarily done it before with these specific softwares that you're using, but
Sure.
I have 100% confidence in our ability to figure it out. Right.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's what business owners like. Like, look,
Yeah.
if you can figure it out, that's worth more, right? Because then you're talking about more time saved, because like it also takes time, you know, to look for people who can do it, when you can just be like, look, I know Hilary's a badass, she does what she does, and then she'll figure it out. If she doesn't know, you know, one of my favorite lines is like, if I don't know, I know someone who does, so don't worry
Yeah.
about it, I'll take care of you. Like if I
Seriously,
can't figure it out, I know a few people who can, so we'll be
exactly.
okay.
I'm giving you resources.
Well, and okay, so I want to talk about kind of this Entre Institute, because I feel like that's a really cool. Um, I feel like that's just really cool. Like I had a small scale of that. I got to meet the Startup Academy. Those
Yeah.
kids doing the entrepreneur at the Startup Academy. Holy crap! Some of those
Oh, I saw
some of
that.
those
That's
kids
so
were freaking
cool.
unreal. Well, so that was just a really cool experience, and I just got like luck of the draw. Like I had interviewed Travis,
Hmm.
um, like a month before, and he was
Right.
like, "Why don't you come?" And I was like, I was ready to go, like I was gonna go and support, and then like literally like the night before, he's like, "Hey, dude, a judge bailed. Can you sub in?" And I was like, "Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
like I
That's
don't
so
know, you know what I
cool.
mean?" And but he had these kids up there. One of them, I mean, they were like in between like inventions, nonprofits, restaurants, food delivery. I was like, and they were like, the goal is to like come up with something and do it. So with Entre Institute, I feel like that's a really awesome way to like get people going. And I'm wondering, because you have the Mastermind podcast. I mean, a lot.
Mhm.
I see the book behind you, Atomic Habits, great book, and I'm wondering how much like talks about confidence and like preparing people to fail, like how much of that goes into these conversations with Entre
Oh,
Institute.
yeah. Oh my gosh. So Contra Institute is a whole different world. You know, I mean, it, this is what I feel like. Like, where do I even start? Because it's
Yeah,
literally like where every single person has ever thought there's got to be something better. There's got to be something more than this 9 to 5 grind. There's got to be something better than putting money into my 401k that's matched by my employer, you know, for the next 60 years or whatever, right? Or probably you're 65. But
yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
I always thought like there's got to be something better than this. That's Entre Institute, right?
yeah,
Because literally they've created this ecosystem of that is, I mean, unimaginable, except for it exists there. But it
yeah,
is like this ecosystem of looking at your life on every single level, your personal, your professional, and your physical, you know, areas of your life, right? And elevating every single one of those. So it's
yeah,
not just taking into consideration business and here's how you run a business and here's how you do this and this. It's also, you know, a huge piece, the mindset. In fact, they run live events for the mindset piece specifically. It's called
oh,
they
that's
call
cool.
it insight, yeah, insight, impact, and influence. That
Okay,
specifically help you break through these. I mean, I'll give you my personal experience. My wife and I
yeah,
attended an insight event with Entre Institute last year, or well, yeah, last year now. So yeah, it was early last year. And that week I came back and, you know, at the event, you go through lots of mindset pieces and personal or not boundaries, personal barriers that you might have. And
okay,
bring in a phenomenal life coach named Todd Campbell, who's done incredible things working
yeah,
with some, you know, really big names. But you go through this experience and just really understand new levels of yourself. That week after I attended, that week I came back from my business, and this was over a year ago, hit our first, you know, 5-figure month that week. And
oh, that's cool.
and the agency honestly has just continued growing since then, right? So
Yeah,
that was kind of like the catalyst point for me in the agency, honestly, of like, man, breaking through all of these barriers that I didn't even realize were holding not only me back but my business back, you know, holding
sure,
all of the different areas of my life back. And I think that's really like the best way to encapsulate what Entre Institute is it's not just understanding, you know, how to run a business or how to, you know, do different
yeah,
things,
yeah,
money online, build digital real estate, all of these different things that are very
hmm
important to our digital worlds now. It's also
Yeah.
understanding, how do I elevate myself to be at the level to accomplish those things, to deserve those things, to work towards a new level of that, right? So
Right.
yeah.
No, that's
Hopefully
really
that's
cool because
a picture of it. Yeah.
no, that's great because I do feel like, mind is probably the most important thing when you're looking at running a
Mhm.
business because especially like when you're starting a new one, like all your friends support you and it's dope, and then
Yeah.
that all that ether wears off, right? There's no more friends to call. You know
Right.
what I mean? They've done everything, and now you got to keep going. And what do you do? And I think that's a great, uh, I think that would be probably some of the biggest things that I would focus on.
Mhm.
And I mean, in sales, it is right. It's like, look, dude, this isn't rocket science. It's really not that hard. People
Yeah.
laugh at me and like they kind of think like an ego. I have an ego thing but like sales isn't like rocket science. It's not that hard. It takes discipline, it
Mhm.
takes work, and then it just takes the right kind of mind. You know what I mean? And obviously there's some nuances and whatever, but like if you have the mind to be a salesperson and you have the discipline, like that's it.
Yeah.
That's all I know. When I would hire salespeople, I didn't even look at their resume. I was like, I don't even care. We'll just bring
Yeah.
them in. And if they talk cool, because I've hired people who didn't have a resume that ended up
Mhm.
being fantastic. And I've
Right.
hired, you know what I mean? And I've hired great people who I thought were going to be phenomenal on paper, who were phenomenal on paper,
Yeah.
and they ended up being duds. And it's
Totally.
like,
Oh yeah,
dude,
absolutely.
and
Well, no, I think you're exactly right with that. It's not,
yeah,
sales is one of those areas that I feel like it's more of your ability to, or willingness, I should say, to
yeah,
understand the other person, right? To be a deep,
yeah, empathy.
an active
Yeah,
listener, to understand and be willing to dig deep enough to
yeah,
figure out what the root issues are, right? Not just the surface
yeah.
level.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I
Mhm.
mean that's why like my sales program is empathy. Like stop.
Right.
I mean, I thought it was great. I mean, empathy is kind of becoming more like mainstream now, but
Yeah.
but it's a great just like dude, just don't be a douche.
Yeah.
That's one of like don't be a dick. That's
Yeah.
you want to be a great salesperson, don't be a douche. Like
Seriously.
you don't have
No,
all
for
the
real.
answers. Learn about the other person and what they're interested in. And then like, I one of my favorite books is and the word is in the title, so I got to say the full title. But the book is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark
Oh,
Manson. Have
yeah.
you read that book?
No,
You need
well, no,
if
I
you have
haven't.
okay.
I haven't read the whole
Okay.
thing, but I've read pieces of it.
Yeah. If you haven't, it's a great I mean it's a quick, it's easy. But the
Yeah.
first chapter is don't try. And it's a counterintuitive approach to like
Mhm.
just letting things go. Just like the more
Right.
and it's the paradox of control. The more you let go, the more you get, right?
Mhm.
And but it's just this mindset thing. And I like Mark Manson a lot he's more of like an existentialism kind of like guy.
Mhm.
Like Buddhist existentialism. And then but anyway, hey, but like let me ask you this. Since that topic came up randomly, thanks to my ADHD, what books do you like? What book are you reading right now?
Ooh, I'm actually reading a book called, um, Ready, Fire, Aim,
I've
and
heard
it
of that book.
have you? Ooh, it is a
Yeah,
good
I've
one.
never read it. Okay,
Yeah, it's a really
that's
good
a
one.
good one.
I don't remember who it's by right off the top of my head. But
That's
it's
cool.
but I'm listening to it on
Oh, yeah,
Audible right now, which
that's
is
great,
like,
yeah.
it's kind of funny.
It counts.
I'm all about efficiency, like time efficiency, you know.
Yeah,
And on
yeah.
Audible, you can listen to it on like 2x speed or whatever.
Yeah,
So
I do 1.5. My
yeah,
Audible's on 1.5. Yep, my Audible's on 1.5.
yeah.
I found that's my sweet spot.
Oh yeah. But
Yeah,
yeah, but it's a really good book. He basically goes through and talks about, he's done, so the author has researched and interviewed and gone through, like done extensive research on some of the most successful companies out there, and basically
okay.
comes back and puts together, his book is essentially like, this storyline of, he was asked to give a presentation to a group of individuals who were willing to pay like $10,000 per ticket for this presentation. And he didn't know
That's
yet what he was going to teach them, but they were all
uh-huh.
entrepreneurs. And so he put together this training or this outline of how to create the most efficient, productive, profitable business And that's what this book is.
Oh,
So
that's dope.
really good one. Yeah.
Right on. Okay, so you're reading, what is it, Ready, Aim, Fire, or Ready, Fire, Aim?
Ready, Fire, Aim.
That's great. What a great what a great one.
It's a good one.
That's
That's actually
great.
why I got it. I was like,
Yeah, you're
wait.
like, okay, I get it. I get it. I get
Yeah.
it. And titles have to be like that. Headlines got to be like that. They got to make you think. One of the books that I picked up, one of the books that changed my life, I picked it up because I was like, this title's crazy.
Yeah.
This title's wild. So the book is called Everything Happens for a Reason and Other Lies I've Loved.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's intriguing.
And it was and the book, I read it in like 3 days. I don't read. I have mad ADHD. I listen to books. Okay.
Yeah.
I collect them as a, so I can have them just because I like my library, but I only listen.
Uh-huh.
But that book blew. And so, I can't even remember. Kate something wrote it. Her name is Kate.
I'm gonna have to
And
check that out. Sounds like a good one.
it's a great book. I mean, and I knew that it was a great book because I did it. I like to do some experiments with books every once in a while. Like when I get a really dicey title like that. And if you read the book, you understand her point, and it's actually an amazing point. She goes over a few lessons. But I gave that book to someone, and I was like, look, if you want to really progress in life, if you want to understand this life a little bit more, like read this book. And I knew that it would be hard for this person to read. And that person gave up reading it after like the first chapter. She's like, I couldn't do it. And I was like, those are the books you probably need to read then.
Yeah.
It was bananas. But anyway. But the title though, Ready, Fire, Aim. Great.
Yeah.
What a great, and I kind of hear that in I'm like, okay, yeah, just shoot. We'll figure it out later.
Aim. Yeah. Ready, Fire, Aim. Yeah. Even saying it out loud, I was like, is that right? Yes, that's right. Ready, Fire, Aim. It is. It's great. Oh, sorry.
What is that, like a shoot first, ask questions later kind of thing? I'm just kidding.
Kind of, yeah. Basically, I think that is kind of what his point is with it. To be honest, I'm only about halfway through it, so
I think that's cool though.
It's a really good one. Yeah. No, but I get that though, and I think I love books like that.
Yeah.
I have the problem too. I have a bit of an ADHD mind that just jumps. In fact, my friends and family members will tell you I have like 12 browsers open with like 20 tabs on each browser, I just jump like crazy. But that being said, one of the books that I just finished not too long ago, and it was my second time reading it, was The 12-Week Year. Have you heard that one or read that one?
Yeah, I have. Okay, I'm gonna write that down. 12-week year, because I've heard that, and I've heard a lot of good reviews.
It's so good. Yeah, The 12-Week Year. He basically takes the concept, and in this book, by the way, it not only helped me. It's basically an idea of like, I mean, we read like the 4-Hour Work Week, the Deep Work, Cal Newport's book, like all these different books that are about like your time management and being productive and all that stuff. Yeah, this is nothing like that. This is like taking it's essentially the concept of like, we accomplish things in the amount of time we give ourselves to do them. Right?
Oh yeah, did you post a quote by Elon Musk about that or something on your social media?
Probably. I probably did.
Probably did. You post a lot of. I like them, by the way. I think you should keep doing that. But I just remember you.
Yeah, I probably did. I don't know, but yeah, essentially that concept, right? And it totally reframed my mind from like a mind of like negative thinking of like, oh, don't procrastinate, procrastinating is bad, blah, 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 to like, well, you can actually accomplish things like really quick if you're giving yourself just certain time frame to do it, you know? But that's his concept in this book is like, okay, you have these, year resolutions for the start of the new year. Cool. What if you take, instead of 12 months to do it, take 3 months to do it? And, so yeah, you're probably right. Cause that's Elon Musk's quote is, even if you don't it in that time, you're way ahead than what you would be.
And the Elon Musk, he was like, if you set a goal to clean your house in 30 days, you'll get it done in 30 days. But if you set a goal to clean your house in 3 hours, you'll get it done in 3 hours. He's like, it's not the task, it's the time. And you're like, oh shit. Okay. All right, dude.
Anyways, seriously though, it's such important perspective, I think, to have, and kind of a
Yeah,
mindset.
it's great. It's a great, yeah.
But yeah, it also
Yeah.
helped me a lot with project management. Like, just looking
Yeah.
at things with more of that mindset of, so Stephen Covey uses the big rocks, right? That like
Okay.
he uses the idea of like, if you have a big project or big goal that you want to accomplish, choose
Yeah.
3 big points of it that you want to get knocked out, instead of having like 12, smaller to do items.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in doing so those 3 points should encapsulate what those other smaller tasks should be. And I think looking
Yeah.
at it that way of just kind of the, how can you chunk this? How can you categorize them into, into more specific topics rather than itemized, 33 different things that need to be done on the list. I don't know. It's
It's true though.
a good way of thinking in
It
my, in
Yeah,
my
yeah,
opinion.
yeah, and it's a great way of thinking because I feel like, I was just as you were talking about that, I never understood, like, you take yearly goals and you break them down to monthly, weekly, daily, and hourly. I'm like, "Bro, I'm not doing that."
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm like, "Hourly? This at some point, we gotta call BS on all this, and at some
Yeah.
point, you just gotta write work down as your
Yeah.
answer." Like,
Seriously.
I'm gonna work, like, and, I'm gonna do, like, I think I had a boss one time, an employer one time who, like, I really learned romanticized hard.
Hmm.
Have you ever met people like that? Or like, no, you could never help me with my business. This is way too complicated. I've been in this for 30 years. It's
Yeah.
not as simple as that. And you're like, okay,
Yeah.
grandpa, we get it, buddy. We get it. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I don't know. I'm just like, I just met people who romanticize hard, and so they make everything harder than things have to be, and they think like if they're and this was another thing I recognized. Like I heard this before, like
Mhm.
being busy doesn't mean being productive always,
Yeah.
right? Like
Mhm.
sometimes you're just busy just to like make yourself feel good,
Right.
you know.
Yeah. Being
And I
busy does
never
not
understood that until
Yeah.
yeah, I never understood that until I met this employer. I was like, "Holy crap, this dude just likes to be busy." It's no rhyme, no reason to it. Like, he got some stuff done. Like, obviously, if you're busy, you're gonna get some stuff done
Mhm.
and be successful to a point. But I was like, "Dang, dude, if you learned how to, like, delegate and cut out the bullshit, like, trim the fat,
Yeah.
this could be a lean machine."
Seriously. Yeah. Well, it's that, this is used in
Yeah.
sales all the time, but it's that KISS, that
Yeah.
what it stands for. It's
Yeah.
like, keep it stupid simple. Like that's
Yeah, yeah,
literally
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Keep it
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah,
Right?
keep it
Because
simple. Yep.
yeah, a confused
There's
mind
another
won't die, a confused mind won't move forward.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and so, yeah, keep it simple, stupid, and then one is, like, keep it short and sweet. Like,
Oh,
bro,
that's right. Yeah.
I don't well, no, there's 2 of them. Yeah, both of them. But I'm like, "Wow, yeah, bro, I don't need to sit here. If you can get it done in 10 minutes, dog, get it done in 10 minutes." Like,
Yeah.
I don't care.
Mhm.
Because it's
Right.
just crazy how
Yeah.
people view all of that stuff. I'm like, "Dang." So
I
you've
know.
had a lot of people go through the Entre Institute, to start their own marketing agency, which I
Mhm.
think is great, by the way. I think, marketing agencies are very, very low cost, low overhead,
Yeah.
high return if you can get it to work. And now, okay, what's crazy is like now there's so many tools out there that you can build because it's so crazy. Like I
Oh, yeah.
meet people all the time who have killer marketing agencies who are just like Webflow designers. Like
Mm.
Webflow came out to be like a consumer website.
Yeah.
It, it's not.
Right.
Like now you pay somebody who's an expert at Webflow or Wix or Squarespace. I'm like,
Mhm.
isn't that funny? Like we want to create a website that's easy for everybody to use. It's like, no, it's not. It's not
Right.
easy to use.
Yeah, I think honestly with that, it's literally it's what you were talking about before, just, convenience, the ease
Yeah.
of use, right?
Yeah. I met oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt
No,
you. Go
no,
ahead.
no. I was just gonna say, like, I think any business owner out there could say, well, I can take time to figure out how to do, how to
Yeah.
build
That's it.
organic SEO for my business. I can take time how to,
Mhm.
learn how to optimize these pieces, how to optimize my website, build these tags, build these backlinks, like all of these different pieces of SEO, right? but it takes time. And
Yeah.
smart business owners know
Mhm.
the value of their time. They know their area of expertise,
Yep. Yep.
right?
Yep.
Which is
That's it. Yep.
exactly
That's it.
why I don't do my bookkeeping.
Well, yeah. No. And
Because
and
it's
by
not my
and by the
area
way,
of
like,
expertise.
yeah, like one of my favorite like mantras in life is like stay in your lane.
Yeah.
Like it's only you and stay in your lane. Like it's
Mhm.
okay. Like it's okay to just be really good at one thing and be like, all right, I got to delegate this out. But I think as a business owner, and I've talked about this before, like on the show, and that is like you have to know enough to have
Mhm.
intelligent conversations to like know how to talk to a website designer and know what you got to know some of
Yeah.
the terms. You got to be educated a little bit, just like with bookkeeping. Like you don't do
Mhm.
your own bookkeeping, but like what you want,
Exactly.
you know what you need to see. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Well, you know
yeah,
the
I don't
report.
care.
You know exactly what
Yeah.
profit you're looking for. Yes,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. You're like, but then you just pass it off. Cause yeah, I think delegation is probably one of the hardest things for entrepreneurs to learn. But when they do, they make tons more money. Like I was talking to a business, a few today actually, and it was like the main selling point was, hey, we'll do it for you. And they were
Yeah.
like, that you'll do it for me? They're like, yep. They're like, cool, I don't need to hear anything else.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I should have started with that, man.
Seriously.
I gotta
Well,
do
not
it. Put it
really.
let us
I think that's
yeah, yeah,
one of the biggest themes that our
yeah,
world, from a business perspective, but just also like as individuals, our world has turned to really value convenience, right? We
yeah,
really, really value convenience. So if you can make something easier for someone or quicker or more accessible, you've got a
yeah.
business. Mhm.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Hilary, I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate you being here, sharing your story and your knowledge with us. Before we go, though, tell everybody how they can find you, where they can go to get your services for business automation, entre leadership, all that good stuff, whatever you want to plug.
Yeah, yeah, no, thank you. And thank you for having me. It's been super fun. Yeah, follow me on social media. I love connecting with other entrepreneurs, individuals, those that want, are aspiring for higher. I love surrounding myself with people like that.
Yeah.
But all of my Instagram, social media, LinkedIn handles are just Hilary Russell _. So it's pretty simple. Keeps it
Great.
really easy. Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. And then the website for the agency is trcagency.com.
Cool.
We love helping businesses. So yeah, that's me.
All right, cool. Well, thank you so much, Hilary. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you, Dalton. We'll talk to you soon.